Hello, everybody, and welcome to Success Never Sleeps for Friday, July 15th, 2022. I am Marco Mazzola from Focus Martial Arts, and once again, the school owners have taken over the airwaves here. We are unfortunately one member short. As you can tell, Monique will not be joining us today. We're going to miss her. She's got a bunch of stuff going on today, so hopefully we'll see her in the comments. We'll get some feedback from her. So let's welcome our other guest and host today, James. Hello, from Resilient Martial Arts.
Great to see everybody.
There he is. And Jason from Believe Martial Arts.
Hello, hello, hello.
All right, gang. Today we're going to talk about all things social media. Social media, how we leverage it for our schools, what it's used for. We'll dip into some parts of the ad campaigns and we can use it for. But for the most part, I think we use social media a lot just to tell our story. And I don't personally use a lot for ads and things like that. Oh, I'm getting some feedback. We good? All right, just checking. All right, so let's go around the room and start with our questions. So question number one was, do you work with an outside company or do you do it in-house? I know for myself, we do it in-house. We've used outside social media companies, but we now do it in-house. But I'll talk more about the why and the where after that. So let's go around the room. Jason, how about you?
Yeah, same thing. We've used some outside companies before, but we completely do in-house now.
You do. James?
Right now we are using outside contracting, and with that, and this is our third one that we've used. But I'm educating myself, on professors' guidance and everything, so that I can take it over because nobody's going to tell our story the way I tell it.
Right.
So
right.
Switching in-house.
Yeah, so that's a good. It's great that you're here too because we get both sides of the yard here, right? We get both sides of the fence, if you will, and we can see what your thoughts are on it because you're currently doing it. Jason and I had done it with outside companies, but now we're doing it in house, so that's actually good. We can get both sides of that. That's awesome. So, what do you think, Jason? I'll start with you. What was your reason to go with an outside company to begin with? Then we'll kind of come back to why you stopped.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you look at some of the bells and whistles that are attached to it, and you're like, man, it's going to make my job so much easier, and take some of the workload off of my plate, especially being, the school owner, and all the hats that we have to wear. So you're thinking, man, if that's just one hat that I can take off and give to somebody else right now, that would be great. And a lot of times, even if you're trying to look for that person that's in-house to do that and give that hat to, sometimes you may not be set up in that. You may be a one-person show. You may not have that person that's completely ready to do that yet. So you're trying to take that hat off a little bit quicker than what's needed. And also, so I think that's one of the reasons why you would choose to look for somebody outside of your school.
Yeah. James, was that basically the reason you did it, or is there?
Yeah, that's really it. It's so quickly changing area. And so hard to, stay up with everything else we have to do as a business owner in the school and the head instructor. I felt I should be able to comfortably and with trust be able to farm it out. And we'll get into that later. But it's just it's not saving me as much time as I thought it would.
Right. So, and just want to kind of go on record and notice we're not sitting here trying to disparage anybody from using an outside company. If that is what you want to do, if that is right for your school and for your culture, then do it. As Professor always said, you have to do what works for you. Don't do it his way. Do it your way. He might just help you guide to find your way. Right, because a lot of us sometimes lose that path, or we don't know which path we should be on. So, I don't want to sit here and spend an hour saying don't ever use an outside company. We did it. We enjoyed it. It just didn't resonate with us as well as we wanted it to. Mm-hmm. It did take some work off my plate at the time. But at the end of the day, like Professor always said, we're going to tell our story better than anybody can. So that was the hiccup between it. Even though they wanted to be able to tell our story as good as we could, it just wasn't going to happen. Right, the things on the fly we can do, posting. So in a lot of companies, unless you pay huge money, they're not going to do the everyday posting for you. They'll run ads, and that's it. And that's great. But we're going to get into what ads should you run and what's the point of running ads versus just doing posting. Okay, so I kind of wanted to go there next. When we do mostly posts, right? We haven't run a Facebook or an Instagram ad in a long time. Since we stopped with the other company, we just dropped it all together, and we haven't seen any dip in leads or anything like that. It's been the same. It's been steady. But because we consistently tell our story through our social media, through Instagram and Facebook mostly, and we'll get into that as well. Which ones should you use? Which ones work for you? But we just tell our story. We're talking about things that happen in the dojo, and we try to diversify it as much as possible. It's not always the same thing every time. And we'll get into some best practices in a minute as well. So James, what platforms do you mostly use?
For the social media, it's the big ones. It's the Facebook, Instagram, Google. That's it. We dabble a little in Nextdoor. Tried Yelp for a little bit, but mainly it's going to be Google and Facebook, and with Google, automatically Instagram gets thrown in there. So,
right, yeah. Right. But they play very different. They play to different audiences, owned by Meta.
To get going, I really strongly recommend that if you don't know what you're doing, maybe you want to hire an outside agency so you can just kind of sit back and watch them and study what they do while you self-educate and learn what you do like and what you don't like about what's going on. Like the company we're using now, I'm not going to shut them off today just because I've decided to start doing it. That would be silly. I wouldn't be getting any revenue, but I think that's one of the things learning is, when you post something on your Meta universe versus your Instagram, the sizing has to be different, the format and that's something I'm learning, and by watching the companies.
And there is, like you said, there's a lot to learn. The learning curve is pretty steep, and it changes constantly. Instagram itself is constantly putting out new features. And if you know anything about Instagram, they really favor people who use their new features a lot. So they like to, when they came out with Reels, they want everybody on Reels. And that's the stuff that gets pushed up to their Explorer page. And that's the stuff that you get noticed organically, right? You put a picture up, which is great. I put pictures up all the time, but you're not going to get seen by anybody other than really people who already like your page, right? You can start using the hashtags, which are important on Instagram and not Facebook. So, that will help you get seen, but using their new features is really important. They really favor those. So the algorithms pick those up and say, okay, we're going to start putting you, and start making short videos. And then you have to get good at making videos, but you don't have to get great at making videos. I don't know if you ever scrolled through, done the rabbit hole of Reels for a few hours. I have, it's just a lot of garbage out there, but they're getting seen. You don't have to be perfect. And I think that's a myth too, that you have to have this well-polished machine on everything you do. Every picture, every video, everything you do has to be super polished and overproduced. It doesn't. The more things that are organic and natural, the more people are going to see what you're doing. Jason, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, at first I would say I would start out with making sure I identify the platforms that I want to be on, because again, you can just in trying to jump into all the platforms, you can go down a rabbit hole, right? So we use Google. Our primary ones is Google, Facebook, and Instagram. Those are the three we primarily use for that. I think if I had to give a fourth one, I would say we're working to educate ourselves more on YouTube as well. On there, I think that's another fourth that needs to be brought into the conversation as well, because of how much it has behind it. Mm-hmm. But it's one of the things to where if you're going to outsource it and that resonates well with you, I think that's a call you have to make. And I would talk to multiple agencies if I was going to do that. Have conversations with them about that. Don't just jump on and say, "Yep, that sounds good," but talk to multiple agencies if that's what you're going to do. But I heavily agree with being very, very involved with it, because nobody, like everybody has echoed here, nobody is going to tell your story better than you. And we need to be able to know how to tell that story, what that looks like, what type of content it's going to be. It's going to be a picture. It's going to be a video. It's going to be a reel. You know, there's so much stuff out there, and it's just like Brandon says all the time. You know, you don't market one way to 70 people. You market 70 ways to 70 people, and this is one of those many ways.
Yeah. Now, what do you think about using an in-house person? Right. Obviously, you know, you still want, like you said, you want to be heavily involved in what you're doing, but you also have to run the business. You might have to, might have to be teaching. You have to, pay. You do the staffing. You have to do everything you have to do, and then to stop everything you're doing to snap a photo or a video of class while you're trying to teach, or you're trying to run something, you're trying to talk to parents. That's not always easy. Do you get a full-time person? Do you have one of your younger staff member who probably knows a lot more about, posting on these platforms than we do? I mean, I'm 46, so you know what I mean? Like, I'm still on Facebook. Instagram I do because people are on Instagram, but my avatar is not necessarily on Instagram, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the drills that we do as a team training for us is that because power of technology, right? I mean, my phone right here, is got a better camera on it than some of the more expensive ones, unless I really want to go drop a lot of money on a camera, which isn't a bad idea if you have that in your budget. But if you don't, you have that power right in your pocket with your phone. So one of the drills that I've done with my team is, because you're right that I have a team that everybody's younger than me. They are way more knowledgeable on all these platforms, all these social media platforms. They have that knowledge because they grew up with it, right? So why not let them use their knowledge? And one of the team drills we've done with this, with social media, because I want my whole team to feel empowered in communicating the story of my school, of our business. And also we have them all take pictures, and then we sit down and we analyze those pictures. What is where's the main subject at? What's in the background? What's in the foreground? What are they doing? Do we see faces? Do we, is the contrast right? Is there sunlight coming in and kind of blurring it out? All of these kind of things to really set up, so that they start looking at that before they ever snap the picture.
And that is critical. Like I said, it doesn't have to be super polished, but you want to see, you're trying to promote your school to a degree, the culture of your school. Do you want to see some kid who looks like he's really upset and angry and throwing a punch, or a kid that's smiling and happy with what they're doing, right? So you have to get that involved of, what kind of shots am I looking for here? I was really guilty of that, always having photos or any ads I did with kids with like their hands up and ready to go. It's like, that's not super inviting to a mother when it looks like you just kind of teach their kid to be a little pissed off and want to, hurt somebody. Right. It's not really helpful. You have to curb that.
And that's going back to talking about, do you know your avatar, right? Do you know who you're trying to communicate the story to on there? Yeah. I mean, like, to me, I grew up doing martial arts. So a picture, an anti-bully picture of a kid holding their hands up like this right here, ready to defend themselves, to me makes sense in my mind from where I'm at and all that I know. Right. But to a mom, that doesn't make any sense. So what would be a better picture on our websites, on our social media? A kid standing like this in front of another kid, or, a kid holding his hand out ready to help somebody up that tripped or fell down.
Right.
Right. So
100%.
I can still communicate the same thing, but that image that supports that content that's wrote is going to speak just as loud as what's written above it or below it.
Yeah, absolutely. James, what about you?
I'm just sitting here soaking all this in because, y'all have had the pleasure of being with Professor for, how long have you been with him now, Marco?
It's been, I think it's at least 4 years. It feels like longer. It feels like 4 to 5 years.
6 months. I feel like it's been 6 years. How long you been with him, Jason?
I'm somewhere around the same time frame. Yeah. 4 or 5, 6 years, somewhere around there.
Sitting in like, a seminar myself, like learning from the experts. And I know I've got middle level management listening to you guys, and like I'm that shift supervisor level right now. So, but
it's a long road. It's a fun road, but it's a long road.
Yeah. It reiterates what Professor's been teaching, sharing with me for the last year. It's all about telling our story. And as I was sharing with y'all before we went live today, the new book that I was reading, what is it? Building the Story Brand by Donald Miller. That, stepping aside, because I was thinking what Jason was saying about when you're capturing that photo, you're looking for it. How do we capture those photos where our students are the heroes and we're just there guiding them on that journey, teaching them to believe, teaching them to focus, teaching them to be resilient. That's what our job is. And they're the true heroes. They're the ones who go off to, Georgetown, Stanford, go on to be, CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. They're the true heroes in the story. And we just get to play that supporting role. And I'm looking for those photos, but didn't think about all that stuff that has to go into the photo, the foreground, the background, what's in focus, what's not in focus. So that's some great stuff.
Every photo tells a story.
Yeah.
What story are you telling with every single photo? And again, it doesn't have to be super polished, but it should look, somewhat professional. But you want to look and also make it look natural. Like, I caught this in the moment. This is not a staged thing. I didn't have an instructor holding the kid's foot there while the kid was having a perfect sidekick and looking, and there's a great background. That you can tell that stage from a mile away. We've all seen the stock photos, and people need to stop using those. We'll be guilty of them. You know what I mean? I just did a camp brochure and post on mine because we're going to do camps next year. But it's the first time we're ever going to do camps. Right, because our current facility doesn't have the option for camps the way it's laid out. The new facility will, so I don't have my kids in camp photos. You know what I mean? I don't have any stock of my own, so I had to use a couple of stock photos for the first one. And then when we do camps next year, you bet your butt I'm going to be taking a whole lot of photos and videos to do the next year's photos. You know what I mean? So you got to get over that hurdle on the first one sometimes. But I will say, when you do that, make sure you're using photos that resonate, right? We don't need the one again with the kid just doing that. Like, it's overplayed. Try something that resonates, something that you would take if a kid was doing in your school.
And
same ones.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, having your school as the backdrop is ideal, and it's kind of twofold on that too. Whenever you're really communicating that, if a parent walks in and they see the same kid that they saw on your website standing on the mat taking classes, I think that builds more trust in your story as well. It's not a stock photo. We didn't stage it. This kid is actively taking and training here. Our school is the backdrop of it. They're here. It wasn't in this studio that it was shot or anything like that, right? So I think whenever we start doing that and we start really telling our story that way, about why it's believed, why it's focused, why it's resilient, why it's, your school versus, some other activity on there, I think that helps build more trust whenever they can walk in and actually see, where that picture was taken at and physically be standing in the same spot on there, for one. And then, all of the stuff that we listed on top of that this is a laundry list of stuff to do. This can be very overwhelming to somebody that's just trying to get started on this and all. And the best place to get started is just pick a day, take a picture, try to write some copy on it. Just do it. Just do one. Just do one.
Yeah.
Because you can talk to 10 people and get 10 different 10 different viewpoints on how many pictures, how many posts you should do on each platform and all that. But just start with one. Start with one and make it, make it your best one, and then grow from there.
Yeah. And it will be your best one because it's your first one. So it's currently your best one, and that's okay. Understand that and build from that. Like, it's a joke, but it's true. Understand it and build from that. Analyze it, and then leave it. Then leave it alone. Like, all right, I did it. And please make sure you spell check it. But when you go through,
I've been guilty of that.
Praise you and because that's distracting when you're trying to that's not correct. But when you do it, put it out there. It's out there, and move on. Go to the next one. Don't overanalyze and pick it apart. Oh my God, what did I do? Oh, that looked horrible. Oh, that wording isn't 100% correct. Move on. Move on to the next one, because it's social media and it's gonna be gone in a second. It's people scroll by it, and then and Have you ever done this? Raise your hand if you ever done this. You're on your phone scrolling for something like, I need to see that on my computer. You go to your computer and you just scroll the sodium wall. You can't ever find it again.
Can't find it. Been there.
It's
Been there.
where'd it go? Right? So it's because it's gone. The algorithm's different. It's picking up different stuff. Don't worry about it. Get it out there, tell your story, and get more out there. Get more contact going, right? And different content, right? Take a picture, do a video, we call it it's not called a floating head. It's it's like a one shot, right? You're doing the one off, kind of like what we're doing right now. Just do your one, a talking head. It's called a talking head. Wow, that really escaped me for a second. It's called a talking head, right? Where you're just sitting there talking to the camera about something, right? I'll be starting to do a lot of those as we move into our new facility. I'm going to do another one for camps this week as well, promoting the camps. So I'm not just putting up an ad. People can hear my voice and the enthusiasm in my voice and my manners to be excited about the camps that we're finally getting to do after 12 years of wanting to do camps. We're finally going to be able to do them. So there's a lot of excitement built in that. My excitement in doing that will help promote the camp. We're excited about it. We want you to be excited about it. It's going to be a great thing.
Right.
Pick up on that because it's not just another ad with some kids they don't know. Right. So that's the biggest thing. Professors say all the time, get yourself on camera doing it. Tell your story. Right. And I'm not huge. Like, I'm not wonderful on camera. I don't always enjoy this. If you notice my social media, you'll see very little of me unless I'm doing a talking head. The photos and things, the video of people like doing stuff. It's the kids. It's my other instructors. It's not really about me. It's about the story of my school, which isn't personality based anymore. It's the school. It's the culture of my school. Yeah. So that's what we really push towards in our social media.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times we try to, we talk about doctoring up the, doctored photos and making sure everything, the composition and all that's right. But the other thing about it is just be authentic in it. Mm-hmm. Just be authentic in what you're writing, the picture that you're taking. One of my best pictures, I can close my eyes and see it, and I will use it as many times as I can. It's a shot over in our excellent kids class that a mom's holding one of the noodles for one of the drills, and she's down at her child's level. The kid's face he's just smiling. He's lit up. He is completely lit up, so it's great. And I will use it as many times as possible because it draws out the emotion. Yeah. In there.
You got to have those. You gotta have some of those that really resonate with you. Yeah. Right? I have one of my excellent kids. She's now in youth, but she's just sitting there, in Cesar, she's just sitting there with her eyes closed because she's meditating. And I've used that 16 Ways to Sunday. It's just a wonderfully perfect, shot of just her head to toe, sitting, kneeling down. The background's kind of blurry and it's just her. So it works under control. It works under, all the different, aspects of the life skills that we promote. You can use that same one, over and over again.
Oh yeah.
So what we'll go back into platforms. I want to talk a little bit more about the platforms and why we use them, and thoughts on the different ones. Obviously, we talked about Facebook. We talked about Instagram. One that doesn't get enough talk, I think, is Google. So I kind of want to start there. Using Google, why we use Google, and why it should be used more. What are your thoughts? Who wants to go first?
Doesn't matter.
All righty, James, go for it.
Well, I think that kind of brings us back to the discussion we were having yesterday when Monique was there, and she said it best.
Monique,
it's it's social media is about social media. The social media we had growing up, I think it was Jason, you said, was, mom sitting on the porch, talking to the neighbor, or when we went down to our friends. And the social media now, the platforms have become so polluted with the face or with the ads and everything. It's no longer about being social. It's opinion editorials and advertisement, opinion editorials and advertisement. And whereas Google, if you're on Google, you're searching for something. That's why it's called a search engine.
Right.
And if you type in martial arts near me, if you're running ads on Google and doing everything else you should be doing on there, Google is a lot of work that I'm finding out. I mean, just setting up your account is
it's a lot to work on Google. Definitely you have to set aside some days.
Yeah, you're right. Days and weeks, because some of that stuff I don't understand. I got to go research what it means, and then come back and fill it out, and then go on to the next step. But I will say, right before I jumped on today, I posted a quick video on the Disruptors page,
Yep.
I tried to use that same feature a year ago on Facebook and could not figure it out. Today it was click 3 buttons and the exact same thing was up and running. So I don't know if I'm learning more about it or if the people and the platforms are making it easier for us, or it's a combination of both. But I would say
I think
Google,
they're
Google's
trying to
for
make it
ads,
easier.
and
One click.
Facebook/Meta, that's for the social stuff. That's for telling our story.
Yeah, I mean, there are ads on Facebook, there are ads on Instagram, but I've found them mostly useless because you're right. If I'm scrolling through Facebook and I'm a shopper, but I might catch something every once in a while and see something I might want to buy through Facebook, but I'm not searching for that. That's not why I'm on Facebook. I'm not looking for time. I'm not looking to sign my son up for something through Facebook or through Instagram. When we signed my son up for swimming lessons or music things, we went to Google and searched in our area what is around us that we can, sign him up for. We went right to Google for it. I didn't scroll Facebook or try to find it there. Went to Google. So advertise on Google. But to advertise on Google is great, but you have to, like James was talking about, you have to fill out your profile. You have to claim your business, number one. If you haven't done it already, you should. Number two, fill it out as much as you can, get that thing to 100% as possible. The more you fill it out with accurate information, the better chance you're going to have to get noticed and be up there. Then there's the part of
consistent information. Yeah, make sure, like, if it's like your phone number,
your address,
how many different ways can you write out your phone number on there, right?
Yep.
You can put the parentheses, you can put the dashes, you can just do it all in one line, but make sure it's consistent across every single platform. The way you write it out.
You use the dashes. Use the dashes on Facebook. Use the dashes on Instagram. Use the dashes on your website. Use the same thing everywhere. Yep. So we'll pick it up. They will pick it up.
And to add to that, you go to Google to search, and what you're searching for, you're usually going to find it, and then go purchase it then. And then when you go back onto Facebook, what you're searching for on Google is going to start popping up. But they've already made their purchase, so now it's really kind of after the sale they're seeing your ad.
Yeah, and quite annoying.
Yes,
but that's a different day. But yeah, no, absolutely. So we use Google, and so when you're on Google, get your profile filled out, make everything consistent, and start posting. Start loading it with videos and pictures. Yeah, you should have equal amount what's on your Facebook, because we always like to post our pictures and stuff like that on Facebook, on our Facebook page. Make sure you put it on your Google as well. We'll get into the whole social media platform, how you can do it all at once and whether that's worth it or not in a second. But just my advice is make sure it's up there, right? If you're going to run a Facebook, whatever, just an announcement for an event, make sure you post it on your Google events as well. Anything you're going to do, just make it consistent across the board. It takes extra time, but it's in the long run, it'll benefit you. The more views you get, and we don't, for like reviews on social media, we have a bunch on Facebook. When people ask us if we would want a review or things like that, or in our dojo on our Market Muscles TV, we ask them for a Google review. We don't really bother as much with the Facebook reviews. We look for the Google reviews because, again, when they're shopping, that's where they're really reading the reviews. Somebody finds your Facebook page, they probably already liked it, and they're not going to read the reviews, but they will read them on Google all day. Yeah. So I would recommend that. Yelp is one I don't recommend. There's a lot of stuff going around with Yelp. Yes, my business is on Yelp because Yelp has all the businesses, but Yelp can be very, to be nice about it, they like money. They like a lot of money. And if you want anything done with Yelp, it costs money. And I get it. It's a business. I'm aware of that. But if you want your stuff to show up, you have to pay them a lot of money. If you want something taken down, you have to pay the money. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of that going on with Yelp. So people kind of started pulling away from Yelp. If you have on your page, other businesses are advertised right under your page. Like, why is there another martial arts school advertised on my business page? If you want that to be removed, guess what? It's going to cost you money.
The funny thing is, go and look up Yelp on Yelp and read their reviews. I think if they could have a negative star, they would.
Yeah, it's not pretty. I've done that. I did that just for fun one day because I was reading some other stuff about them. Like, yeah, it's not pretty. It's not pretty.
Well, and anyway, that's just like we were talking about before. Was depending upon the platform, depends upon what your avatar is, who you're looking for, who you're trying to reach out to on there, what's right for your area. I know at one time, Brandon said that Yelp did great for his schools in California, but in my area, not many people use Yelp. They use Google a lot, use Google a lot, Facebook a lot, that kind of stuff and all that. So, so it didn't resonate well with us to use, to be able to use Yelp, even whenever it was doing really, really well, so, I mean, again, I think for anybody that's, listening live or catching this on a replay or something like that, I think you really got to sit there and decide, what are the platforms that your community uses to search out, to communicate with, that kind of thing on there as well. I think that's just as important. I can post all day long to Facebook, but if nobody's using it in my area, then that's not where I need to be. That's not where I need to spend my time.
Absolutely. 100%. All right, so let's take a quick break right now. Just talk about our sponsors for today. As always, want to thank Market Muscles, simply the best in web design and web. I mean, we use them. We've been using them now for a few years. Super easy to use. They take care of everything soup to nuts. Steven and the gang are amazing. They're constantly innovating and coming up with new. They just, I know my site's done. Jason, yours is redone too, right? You got the new version. So they upgraded everybody's version for free, which is ridiculously time consuming for them because you have to do everybody's individually. It's crazy, but they just did it because they knew they wanted everybody to have the best of the best. So I really like Market Muscles. I recommend them all day long, all day.
Yeah, super easy to use. And I mean, I was just posting a blog on there before the show. So,
and for someone who's not tech savvy like me, I'm going to tell you, like that AI blog writer, I didn't understand it. I sent them a message, like 48 hours. I got someone on the phone training me on it. And you'd asked me a year ago, I'd have told you I'll never write a blog. And
I'll tell you, the tech support, their tech support is number one too. They're right on it. Like they get back to you really quick and they're always knowledgeable, always helpful. I've never really had like a no from them. Like, no, we can't do that. They always find a way. You know what I mean? Not gonna speak for them, but they've always found a way to get things done and make my site the way I want it to be. And I can be a very picky site owner because I used to build websites myself. So I'm like, yeah, you can do it. So, it's just a matter of time and things like that. So I am that problem customer and I'll fully admit it. So anyway, we'll move on to My Studio 2 in the gang. We love My Studio. We've used a bunch. I'm not going to name any names here. We used a bunch of different, software to run our school. We found My Studio to be the easiest. It's getting more robust, but they still don't overpack it with useless things. We use a great deal of My Studio from what it has on there. Some of the other platforms that we used a 10%, maybe 20% at best, and they were way more expensive. So, I've used a lot of My Studio. I'll use them for as long as I keep going. I love my app. My branded app is key for me. Some other places have apps, they're not branded, which is, and they say like the generic one that then you load in and it becomes yours. That branded app having your logo on somebody's phone is super key for me. People look at you like, wow, you have your own app, not just here's the generic app and go in. So if you have My Studio and you haven't got your own branded app, talk to them, get your branded app. It's pretty cool. It's a little extra, it costs extra $1, but it's worth it. That level of professionalism of having your own logo on somebody's phone is pretty cool. We can't say enough about Kids Love Life Skills. We use it. We all use it. It's an amazing character development program. I've talked about it before. I met Professor, went out there, looked at the program, and said, yep, we absolutely. I've used other ones again. I've used other ones that worked okay, but weren't as robust and didn't have as much in it, and didn't quite resonate with me as much as this one has. And then all of a sudden, I start working for them. I don't know how things happen; they just do. So we're out there using it.
And I'll say this, and Marco, I'll put this on there because you are on that back end working with Kids Love Life Skills on that. But I'll add to that is that the constant growth. Just as a school owner that I see on that end, on the school owner end of that, where more badges are coming out, the materials being updated, it's constantly growing and improving. Little tweaks here, little tweaks there, the ideas that are shared from multiple partners in the group, and from the team of Kids Life Skills, I think that support goes a long way on top of the actual product that you get from Kids Life Skills.
Now, the team is number one, obviously starting with Professor and Letitia, Ben, myself, my wife, Amy, Chris, who does the website stuff. It's amazing. And we are adding more badges. We came out with Empathy this year. We're about to launch Service and Resilient. Are both coming out. Yep, those are very short. I know Service is ready to launch, so we're just basically going to click the button and get that on the site. And Empathy, Resilience should be right behind it. And then we have, I believe, Adapt and Creativity, I believe, are coming out after that. So there's a lot more coming out in the future, more stuff coming out. So we're excited to keep it moving. I got all my bins almost filled.
On that too, it's like anything that we're talking about on all these. It's an investment up front, just like Chevy invests in machinery to build the best cars and design them. I think as a school owner, if you want to run that, top tier martial arts school, provide that top tier service, you have to invest in those services, like the Kids Love Life Skills for your students. And it's a little tricky. I don't run it the same way you run it. You don't run it the same way Jason runs it, but we all run it on the basic principles. And it took us a few months, about 4 months, to figure out how it works best for us. And we're still tweaking it a little. But I will throw down the gauntlet, since Marco has the best Kids Love Life Skills display in his dojo with all the stripes and everything. Wait until it's time. We're going to bring you a photo of our wall there, Marco. You're going to have to step up your game, man.
Is it going to be done before October?
It'll be done before I see you next month. It's time.
Good. Because remember, I have to go to the new school in October and renovate.
You got me.
One more level. Soak it in and bam. That's how I work. That's how I roll. Last one, of course, is LC Accounting. Letitia, we love you. I don't know if she's on today, but I was speaking to her earlier, and we're looking forward to seeing Letitia again. I love Letitia like a sister, basically. I mean, she's amazing. She's right there with us all the time. During the pandemic, I mean, I can't say enough of what she helped us do and keep us moving, keep us open, and keep us going. And now with the relaunching of the new studio, I mean, she's right there helping us out every step of the way, making sure we get everything, all of our ducks in a row, because I'll be the first one to admit it. I love teaching. I love doing social media. I love doing all this stuff. I hate numbers. Hate math. I hate numbers. That's why I have my wife, and that's why I hired Letitia. She keeps me straight as much as I can. I'm not easy. We know that. We've all seen my unapproved purchases, but she keeps me going. She keeps the wick cracking good. She's good. If you need a kick butt accountant who's going to keep you straight, call Letitia.
Yeah, she will set you up for success for sure.
Absolutely, 100%.
So
100%. She pulls no punches. She does not
keep
around the subject. You're right away.
Keep you right.
Yeah, she'll tell you to knock it off when you're being a Marco. I mean, when you're not being right. So, all right. Let's go back into it. So, the next thing was we talked about which platform. The one next thing I want to talk about is scheduling. How do we schedule our social media? Because the main theory is you got to post every day, and then they started to be you got to post multiple times a day. Like if you listen to the Gary V, it's you got to just be posting every time you breathe. Like, oh, I got to post. You take a drink, I got to post. You know what I mean? It gets a little much, and you have a million other things to do on your plate. So how do you schedule posts yourself, and what how often do you post, that sort of thing? Who wants to go? Jason, I'll go with you first.
I'll go. I think James teed off the last one. So, so for me, like I said, we primarily rely on Google, Facebook, and Instagram. One of the best things that I feel works for us is using that Meta suite, that business suite, because it automatically makes sure everything is in line for Facebook as well as Instagram on there, and we can hit it. We can make it to where it posts at different times on those platforms. We can post it at the same time on there, and then after that, I got to put a little more work into it, and pull it over and put it on Google as well. Because my theory is if I posted it on Facebook, it needs to go on Google. I want them to see that consistency between those two, or they may see it here and then see it again over there. That kind of thing. So consistently doing it that way so that those posts happen. Batching it out it helps out a lot on there, making sure that you've got enough pictures, you've got the copy you want, And then just taking the time, and again, everybody will tell you different times a day, different ways to do it, but just find time in your schedule to sit down and do a week. Just do a week at a time if you have to. If you got the time to do the whole month, do the whole month. But you've got to work on creating the content for it on there, whether it be the video or pictures. I think that's where a lot of people, I know that's where I get bogged down is I've got to get the content. I've got to get it. Because I'll get in there. I think we talked about it a little bit in our meeting yesterday was that, I'll get in there, start teaching, and I'm like, oh, I forgot to take the pictures.
Yeah.
So I get so engulfed in what's going on.
Birthday parties. I'm like, I should have taken a picture.
Yep. There it is. So we got to be very mindful of that and be ready to do that. So if it's not, if we're teaching the class, have somebody designated to take the pictures for us. If we can take them ourselves as we're teaching, or taking pictures of our students and our team teaching on there, just making sure. And again, one of the luxuries of today is, that phone in your pocket's a great camera, and just start snapping pictures. You may take 100 and get 10 good ones, but at least you got 10 good ones in there. Right.
Yeah. And I'll add to that instead of saying snap more video. Video is becoming king. Video is very much king. You got to get pictures, and that helps with a lot of stuff, print and social media, social stuff in your website, but you got to get videos going. Live videos, if you can do it on Facebook or Instagram, you're doing a class is happening. You want to review, like if you're just doing basics or something like the students are doing amazing, or a teacher is helping a student, start videoing as much as you can. People love the short ones. Don't make them, 20, 30 minute long videos, just short videos. People eat those up all day. Make reels.
Yeah, Marco, do you have I think you do a lot of videos, don't you, Marco? Like you've got.
I do a lot of Facebook or Instagram live videos.
Have you found out like what and now I know Instagram keeps you to a specific amount, but if you're trying to hit multiple platforms with it, have you found a certain video length that works well?
I mean, Instagram, if you're just doing like a posting a video, it's a minute. If you're doing a live, I don't know what the limit is. I've gone on pretty long with it. And I've probably done 10, 20 minute live videos, but posting a video, it's a minute.
Yeah. But which one do you feel like you get more engagement, better traction with, or anything like that? Where would you recommend other school owners to kind of go where they start?
Videos. But I'll say, because kind of going back what you were saying, to Yelp, right? When you were saying in your area, it's kind of the same thing, right? And in a certain degree, certain areas, certain just people they have these natural habits of how they consume their social media. It's not the same in Massachusetts as it is in Florida, as it is in Germany. It's just not the same. People do it differently. So you have to test it, and that's the hard thing working with a company who might not be in your area. Right, they're based out of wherever, but they're not local to you. So it's almost impossible for them to understand how everybody consumes social media. So you're best off testing it. Do some live videos, do them at different times. Do some just pictures. Do some pre-recorded videos. Do the static one shots. Do the the memes. Doing some meaningful ones, right? Quotes, things like that. Mm-hmm. Post those at different times and start, but be cognizant to check your insights on Instagram, check your traction on Facebook, and see what works. You got to do some calculations. I'm horrible with numbers, but I do it. I go in there and try to find what works best for me and how we get the best engagement, in ours. And it works. It works. You have to start doing it.
Cool. With that, that's what I'm finding is we're doing it is Google, the Meta suite does for everything. If you go back and you review your post, it'll tell you what the best time is to put them, because it'll tell you when the most people are looking at them. But what I did notice going back through and doing the history of it is while the kids are in school, there's one best time for that. But as soon as school lets out, that time for posting changes. Holiday weekends, time changes. So it's using that analytics, that data that these big tech companies have already gathered for us. To figure out when the best time is to post and be aware of, hey, if something's coming up, go back and look at your history to see when the best time is, because there are patterns for that.
Right. So the next question becomes is getting followers. How do you get people to like your page or follow you? on Instagram or things like that. What I have tactics that I use. I want let me hear from you guys. What are some tactics you use?
I mean, I think first of all, you got to be upfront with everybody that comes in. You know, if they sign up with us and they want to join our community, then we're going to make sure that we give them those links to join our Facebook group. You know, here's our Instagram. Here's our Facebook page. You know, here's Google. If you know, whenever you feel like we've earned a review, please give us a review. Like that kind of thing on there is constantly being out there, putting that out there so that people know where to find you at. It's the same thing of giving people your address, where you're located at. You know, you got to tell them where to find you at.
Yeah.
You know, so they need to know where you know, what platforms are you on. They're not going to necessarily just go sit down. I mean, you might get 1 out of every 10 that'll sit down and hunt you out on certain platforms or something like that, maybe. You know, but you got to let them know where you're at.
And it's time consuming. You have to understand, just like anything, it's worth the work, but you got to put in the work. You know, just for a couple of stats. So, in Jason's Facebook page, you have 2,389 people that like your page. You know, about 2,400 that follow your page, which is great. I mean, compared to mine, I have 899 who like. I mean, that's fantastic. But I go heavier into Instagram. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, and again, that goes back to the market that you're in, right? So,
I have on Instagram I'm at 6,300, where you're at 3,347. Yeah, it's a massive difference. But here's why. I'll tell you. But the point of this is not being like, I have more than you do. That's not the why. Because you're crushing me on Facebook. You're absolutely destroying me on Facebook. But it's where you engage with the people. So that's one thing I've learned is that as your business and even as yourself, you need to engage with people. You need to engage with other posts, not just martial arts schools. Obviously, we all have friends and hey, Jason, good job. I like your photo there. That's awesome. Right. But you need to get on your local groups on Facebook, right? Your local town, whatever, mom and dad group. Don't advertise. Don't advertise on the group. They hate that. But engage with the posts. People have a question, helpful. Be helpful. Answer the question. Yep. Somebody says, oh, we did this great thing. Oh, the school's doing this. Give them that's awesome. Don't just give them a like. That's useless because, 700 likes, they're not going to see you. But put a comment, a helpful comment, and a nice, respectful comment, please. Don't lay off the, trashing them comments. But do that. Get the comments going. That's what we do on Instagram a lot. We post as our page, things like that. We comment another, not martial arts schools. We just comment on stuff on our community. So people come back and they like, oh, who is this? Who's this commenting on my post? And we do it consistently. We try to spend at least 20 minutes a day. It takes double for me because I also do it for my podcast. But then, so I do it for the school as well. So I just go on there, log in as that thing, just go through my feed. Right, and just post and just comment. It gets us a lot more that way.
Yeah, and you mentioned it earlier, and I know Brandon said it before on the show. Before it's that Gary Vee wrote that book, Jab, 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 Right, Cross. But it's not just jab, jab, jab anymore. It's jab, 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 and you just got to give and give and give and give and give without going. Come here to find out more.
Yeah. They'll come in and find naturally. People want to find like who is this guy that keeps, who is this school, who is this focused martial arts that keeps commenting again, respectful, helpful, wonderful, nice things, right? Engaging comments, right? Then they're gonna come back and look you up. Like who is this company? Where is this person? Oh, they find out you're in the Woburn area, whatever, and then it's like, okay, they might not be ready to buy right then, but again, it's that seed planted in their brain when they're ready to take their kid to martial arts. Who are they going to think of? We talk about this with, community service. We're handing out cotton candy and not taking names. Right. Who are they going to look for when they're ready to bring their kid to karate? It's the same thing on social media. Yep. So definitely get out there and engage with your community. That's a huge plus for you. James, how about you? What have you been working on currently? Like let's talk about that. What currently are you working on with Professor in terms of your social media and getting it up to speed?
Well, we were having a problem with the current company we're using. When I first got with Professor, and I guess we should probably talk about the dark side of using agencies. I was using an agency that was doing an outstanding job for me, And then I'm not going to go into the details, but it was a serious breach of contract. I believe in area protection, and I'll just leave it at that. And I gave the company numerous times to correct it, and it just we went separate ways. And then I hooked up with another company, and they've done good for me, but it's like managing that rogue employee. You know, you tell them what you want, and they do it really good, and then when you're not looking, they start going back to the way they're comfortable of doing it, and then you got to pull them back in. And
that happened to me with the same company.
I struggled with trying to do so much with Professor at once that I didn't focus on it. I don't think I realized how important. I knew social media and the advertising part was important, but Professor's given me a different way to do it. You know, and when we were all out there last year at its time, we all, you know, kind of said, yeah, community-based service marketing is the way to go. And if we're out there doing that and we're using social media to be social and show it, I think that's the best thing we can do. Then we're using social media for the purpose it was designed. And it's a whole lot less expensive, which allows us our budget to serve the community more.
Yes.
And then I'm in that stage right now is like, you know, I'm a white belt when it comes to this stuff. And, you know, a lot of white belts show up and, man, they can kick like crazy. You know, you'd think they've been training for years, but let them throw a punch or try to put a solid stance together. And that's what I'm finding this about. You know, some things I'm really good at. Others, like, you know, a fish out of water. And it's a struggle. But I'll tell you what, 6 months ago, I'm nowhere as bad as I was as, you know what I'm trying to say there. And that guy who didn't do anything for the last 6 months, I'm years ahead of him. So
right, well, that's the point, right? You did one post, you're one post ahead of the guy who's not doing anything.
Yeah. So to those people who are struggling, it's hard. Don't be afraid to make an investment. Find somebody you can trust to mentor you. If you're afraid to do it on your own, then, like you said, interview 3 or 4 companies. Go with some reputable people. And be careful, but you got to watch them. You got to babysit them because they're not going to tell you the
same issue. We were running, for some reason, we were still running back to school ads in like almost January. I'm like, what's happening? I looked around, like, I thought we would change these back in October, November, and it hadn't been. So I was like, okay, that was enough for me. That was the sort of final nail, if you will. I'm like, all right, you're still running back to school in December. Nope. So you have to watch it. I mean, no matter who you have working for you, you have to give them a level of trust, but you have to watch them, to a certain degree, just to make sure that they're resonating and telling your story. That alone is a lot of work. We talked about that 100 times already. You got to make sure they're telling your story. If they're not, help them to tell your story. But like I said, it's easier to do it yourself, to tell your story. And again, it is easier to have somebody in-house who is in your culture every day. Right. So there's that point of it to get across is like, don't think you have to do it all yourself. If you have somebody who is competent and can do the work in terms of, and have it pass by you before they start launching things live till they get really good and tell that story. But just like Jason does, have that meeting with them, just like you have to groom them to be a great instructor. So nobody comes out being a great instructor. Nobody gets a black belt being a great instructor. You still have to be groomed to be a great instructor, even a good instructor. It's the same thing. You're going to have to groom them to be a good social media person for your business. They can be a great social media person. They have a ton of followers on their own. They're awesome at Instagram and TikTok or whatever. But are they a good social media person for your business? They can be. They can be. You just have to groom them to be. It's going to take time. Again, it's worth the work. Because eventually, some of that will be taken off your plate. And you think about the bigger companies, because Professor's always looking at big companies like Apple and Starbucks, and the guys who run the company aren't doing the social media for those companies. You know what I mean? They did in the beginning, but eventually they had to farm it out to someone else in-house. They all have in-house people that do their social media and stuff like that because they know how to tell the story.
And there's no reason that's another way to kind of help your team or help find that person. Because a lot of times either they're really good at taking the pictures or they're really good at creating content. So you need to isolate where they need that help and focus in on that. My team, they didn't do a bad job in taking pictures. We worked on some angles and things like that with some of it. And boom, they take great pictures. They do now. And then now they're going in and going, I'm not sure about what to write. Like, okay, well, let's look at the picture. What does it say? I said a good starting point, and again, it's just a reason why I love Kids Love Life Skills. Which life skill can we use for it?
Yep.
And let's go read the material that is sent to us through Kids Love Life Skills, through that support material that we have, and how we can make sure we are consistently communicating on what our instructors say on the mat, what our parents take home with them, and even what's in our social media posts.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's ways to do that. You know, every school has some information there that they can use to communicate their values and their purpose and their why and all. You know,
and
for
start,
us, it's
start making it part of your training process. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
You have people doing it. It could be in your instructor training, whatever part you want to do, and create systems around it. There's a system in terms of doing it. You know what I mean? We do a talking head on Monday because that starts off our week. We do a live video on Wednesday, you know, whatever, like building your thing so it's consistent, because that's one thing we haven't really talked about yet, is being super consistent with your social media, with your posting. Right, whenever you're doing it, like when we, you know, there's a reason this comes out every Friday, because you have to be consistent, otherwise you lose people. So be very consistent with what you're posting, how much you're posting, when you're posting, you know, otherwise you will start to lose traction with people. And just in terms of the algorithms alone, if you're not posting consistently, it gets really weird, especially with Instagram. It gets kind of crazy on when you get seen. So be consistent with your stuff and just put something out there. A little something of a kid doing a high five to another kid is better than no post for the day.
And don't be afraid to use the features that are native to that platform.
Yeah, so we didn't talk about that yet. You know, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of features out there.
You asked how to grow those Facebook pages. I think, you know, tagging people, asking them to share, and when you get them personally involved in, you know, and give them that dopamine when they see their name, they want all their friends to see that, you know, hey, I'm famous, you know.
Yeah.
I'm an influencer for my dojo. So
and that's it. So that's utilizing and leveraging the technology that's there and using the features like tagging, hashtagging, and just tagging people and using hashtags that you need to. Those are two major things, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's on Facebook. Use the hashtags and use your @ symbol to get people on there. You know, I run an entertainment podcast, you know, so we are constantly adding the big companies, right? If I'm talking about a Marvel thing, I always @ Marvel or whoever, or @ Disney when I'm reviewing something for their show, because then that gets us on not only their page, but in front of a lot of other people that are searching. Oh, I'm looking for something. You know, I like the Disney page, and it's just on the who's mentions Disney. It just pops up. So there it is. So I've got a lot of people on that who just kind of saw me posting about our review and happened to tag a Disney thing. They come on. So there's no reason you can't do that. Use your town as well. Do a lot of town hashtagging. You'll really get into their town.
You know, and whenever you know, if you're using pictures from your school, and you know, we've got one kid, and this just happened this week. We were updating some of the stuff on our My Studio curriculum covers, and we actually used a picture they took from home. They did a virtual class with us, and whenever the kid went on to do his training video, he saw his picture on there. What's the first thing we get? We get a message from mom about how excited it was, and it made his day. So now kid's happy, mom's happy because the kid got excited and got, you know, found value in that. So what is she going to do? She's going to share that. She's going to share that. That's where that word of mouth, that's where your social media crosses over into that word of mouth, which as a parent myself, that is a lot more value than any post, is that word of mouth anyway. So how do we bridge that gap from social media to word of mouth?
Yeah.
You know,
so word of mouth will always be more powerful than you saying you're great.
Right.
Yes, I'm wonderful. Yeah, of course you think you're wonderful. You should. But do other people think you're wonderful? The one who are paying you money, do they think you're wonderful? That's what matters the most. So yeah, use those things. We talked about the Instagram, the circles. Use your Instagram circles. If you haven't seen those before, I think I can share screen. Let's see. Chrome tab. Instagram, yeah. So my Instagram, we use the circles here. So we have like our core skills, life skills, skill drills. When you do that, when you click on them on your phone, it doesn't quite work on the web. Oh, maybe it does. It gives you it groups together all the different things that you've used that for, and that you've stuck. It's basically like a folder. It's a folder for all my life skill focus drills. Is my focus drills one. These are like all my focus drills ones we've done. These are all my basic skills sets that we've done, our videos, and put them together. But if you notice when we do it, it's consistent, right? Like you're talking about, engage your success at the top and focus martial arts is down the bottom. First thing you see is what? Engage your success. If you're reading top down, that makes sense. This is consistent in there. So, it's all those sort of things that, go along with it. When you're doing stuff, be consistent, use the features. Instagram loves when you do that. Facebook does too. So definitely try to get as involved in the features as you can, but just be mindful that they change constantly. You can't get frustrated and pull your hair out. It's the nature of the beast. You got to do it. So any last, we're just about out of time. Any last minute pro tips for social media you guys want to give?
Yeah. Never stop learning, because it's never going to stop changing, and just accept it.
And don't be afraid to ask for help. I can't tell you how many times in the years that as I was learning, and I'm still learning, I went back and looked at a post that I did, 6-7 years ago, and compared it to some that I've done, just last month or this week or something like that, and can tell the difference in it. It's kind of hard to see that growth that you have, because you're always with you. But I can tell you, through that process of that wasn't an easy process. And don't be afraid to ask for help. I can't tell you how many times I have actually started writing a post, screenshot it, and I sent it to Brannon, because I'm like, I think this is good.
Yeah.
I feel like it is, but something's not missing. It's not quite clicking. And I'll even do that today. I'll sit there and type it out. I'll be in there. I'll look at it and I'll go, that's just not right. And delete it out and just go, okay, that's the direction, but it's not the right ingredient. It's not the right thing yet. So don't be afraid. Hey, Virginia.
Don't ever think, like, if you have any question about it at all, you're just not sure that someone's ringing in you like this is 100%, bounce it off of someone. Obviously, Professor is a great tool to use that for. He loves doing stuff like that. In-house, if you're in-house, you ask a parent.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I just did the camp flyer and stuff like that. I said, does this resonate with you? It was our first time doing camps here. How does this, work? And they loved it. Obviously I passed off to Professor. He's like, did you do your call to action? I'm like, forgot my call to action. I put it on there, So, you got to bounce it off before you start just launching things like that, especially if you have any question about it whatsoever. And eventually you'll get really good at it. But still, you've been doing this a while. And we know, Jason, Professor talks about your stuff all the time. You crush the social media. Your story, your stuff on there is amazing. But you're still, you said you're still learning, you're still working on stuff, you're still tweaking things, and he's still guiding you, whether it's the mentor aspect or it's just another set of eyes. You know what I mean? Just another pair. I do that to my wife all the time. She's always a second pair of eyes, especially when it comes to spelling and grammar check. She's always a second set of eyes to bounce things off of. So, and we mentioned that before. That's one of my pro tips. Get yourself a spell check and a grammar checker. It's not conversational. We get it, but it gets a little monotonous if you just nobody can understand what you're saying, and you put ALOT as a lot and it's one word and everybody's pulling their hair out and they want to stand on their scream at you that it's actually two words. Things like that, like it defeats the purpose when people have to sit there commenting on your grammar or your spelling. It diffuses from what you're trying to say. So just be consistent.
That's and all of that together is the reason why you should plan out your social media and execute on that plan. Some things are great in the moment because it's just there and it hits you, and still do those.
Which is where I'm at. I still do a lot in the moment.
In the moment is great. You'll get some great stuff, but there's something to be said about how many times did all three of us say consistency in that, and having that time to really work that post into something great. You got to schedule that time in to do that. You can't always do it off the fly.
Yeah. I was doing like Sunday nights after my kid went to bed. Sunday, I planned out a week.
Yep.
I always do a week ahead of time. I tried to do a month one time. It didn't work. I was running out of content by like week 2 or 3. I'm like, this isn't going to work. I need more content, and that's okay because I don't want my content to be 5 months old. I want it to be current. You know what I mean? If I was still using content from 5 months ago, everybody in the room would have masks on their face, and our, to a certain degree, our dojo would still be sectioned off from COVID. So like, it doesn't resonate anymore. We're not doing that anymore. Now masks are voluntary in my school. So, some kids are wearing them, some kids are not. So, if I had everybody with it, including the teachers, it would be a lie. When someone comes in, wait a minute, everybody was wearing masks in that last photo I saw.
Right.
Not now. Right. Because that was a 6-month-old photo. So you need stuff that's up to date. You need stuff that's up to date. What is Virginia here? Yep. That's it. Exactly. You have the pre-scheduled stuff and do the in the moment stuff. She's absolutely right. Have your pre-scheduled. You got something going on. So what if you have 2 posts in one day? I have something scheduled for 11 a.m. I'm at the school. It's 3 o'clock. Post something else.
Post something else. There's no harm in that. And I've seen Virginia's social media, and Zach does a great job with that too. And he's going to be he's going to be one of the out there. It's time too, sharing some of that. So that's going to be a great. It's going to be amazing.
I've seen Virginia's stuff. It is super tight.
Yeah.
Very clear brand. Hugely clear brand. It's amazing how tight it all is. I mean, Zach's got his own company. I mean, he's it is professional. It's a professional looking brand, and and it's like we talked about last time. People come up to you and go, "Dude, this is a franchise." Hers looks like a franchise, like her. And I mean that. It looks super professional, like she's going to be having 20 of them, and hopefully she will. So all right, let's
resonates with her.
Yes, let's cover real quick on what we have going on. As you said, we have coming up. We go over here. Breakfast with Brannon coming up on Monday, 7/18. So that's actually this Monday. If you're going to be out in Las Vegas for the Super Show, definitely get online. The link is in the descriptions. So get on there and he's going to feed your belly and feed your brain. They're both going to be stuffed packed, I guarantee you. So get out there and have the sort of one-on-ones, a small group, just going over all this kind of stuff with him. So I have not had the pleasure to do this yet. We were going to do the Super Show like a year or 2 ago, then COVID hit, so we didn't get to do it. So I'm looking forward to hopefully next year, if he does this again, to get out there and do the Breakfast with Brandon. That's going to be amazing. So we have that. What else do we have coming up? Of course, we have It's Time Live. Here it is. It's Time Live Believe. We'll be out there the 13th through the 16th in Millbrae. It's always an amazing experience. It's I love vacationing, but we do this every year instead. Eventually, when I don't have to run the school every day, we'll get to do some other stuff as well. But it's kind of like we go there every year and we talk about it, and we always figure like, all right, well, we'll see you guys next year. There hasn't really been a question since we started going whether we're going to go again next year. Should we go again next year? Do we need to go again next year? Why are we going to go again next year? It's always like, we'll see you again next year. Like I said, normally it's in November. So hopefully we'll see you guys out there for It's Time Live Believe. Again, the link is in the descriptions. All right. Excellent. All right, gentlemen, I want to thank you for being on the show again today with me. And we'll all do this together. We're all in it together, as they say. Virginia says the sky's the limit. And she is 100% right. She is 100% right. So any final parting words before we jump off? We're like almost 10 minutes over time, but that's okay. It was a great show.
I'm good. See everybody next week, right?
That's a wonderful space there. All right, thank you guys. I appreciate it. Remember, what are we gonna go tell everybody to get out there and do?
Live your best life.
Live your best life. Yep.
Live your best life. Engage in success.
Be your best.
Be successful.
There it is. You guys are awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a great one, everybody.
See ya.